Porn is good for your brain. April Fools! I'm Dr. Trish Leigh, and I'm here to share with you on this April Fool's Day the real dangers behind porn consumption. Not only is porn not good for you, like many people think that it is, but it is proven to damage your brain, to impact your mind in terms of your mental health, and your body in terms of your physical health, not to mention your relationships, your motivation, and your entire life. So stay with me on this episode of the podcast. It's a bonus April Fool's episode that's also on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Porn Rewire. We are here for a special April Fool's edition of the podcast, Porn Rewire with me. Now, this is your public service announcement. If you haven't heard me plain flat share the dangers of porn consumption, that's what we're doing here today. Because many people I work with think originally that porn is good for them. I hear this all the time. So I'm going to dispel that myth and share with you how it impacts your mind, your body, and your life. So let's dig in. First, what we're going to talk about is why porn is not good for you and why you might think it is. Number two, we're going to talk about how it shows up in your brain and how that translates to your mind and your body. And of course, the third thing we're going to talk about on this special April Fool's episode is how you can quit porn for good and, more importantly, rewire your brain so that it works better in the optimal mode, so that not only do you not need porn anymore, that you can live at your full potential and have the amazing life that you've always wanted and that you deserve. So let's dig in, okay? So number one is, why might you have thought that porn was good for you originally? Well, many people think it is because it makes their brain feel good in a stressed out life and world. So we know, and I know from looking at hundreds of brains now, that when you develop a porn habit, what happens is your brain gets stuck in what I call the pendulum effect brain pattern. It's one that is wired and tired, it's stressed out and overwhelmed, and it is uncomfortable most of the time. So if your brain is using too much fast speed, called high beta, and too much slow speed, called theta, that will constantly push you into the screen, when simultaneously the screen is pulling you in also, because we know it's a super normal stimulus, giving your brain more dopamine than it can be found in the world. So you think it's good for you because it's making you feel good, and you might think it's making you feel like a peak performer because you think it's offsetting your stress in a healthy way and that it's helping you to accomplish your goals. So many people have said, I thought porn was good for me until it tips, until the threshold tips and your brain gets stuck in that pendulum effect. If you've consumed a lot of porn, and if you are frequently, consistently, and especially with any level of intensity consuming porn, intensity meaning genres have crossed your moral boundaries, you're watching things that are violent, that involve a three-ring circus, if you will, that involve a lot of unhealthy sexual acts that are giving your brain tons and tons of dopamine, what can happen is now your brain is in the pendulum effect when you're in your life, but after you've consumed porn, during it and after, actually leading up to it, during it and after, your brain is flooded with dopamine. And I know some people's brains get stuck in that mode. And when your brain gets stuck in increased alpha, couch mode, what happens is your motivation is shot. Your motivation towards life. Motivation is something that is linked through dopamine to the activity that you link it to. So if you haven't linked your dopamine to your life and you've inadvertently linked your dopamine to the screen, that's where your motivation lies, back into the screen, back into hypersexuality. So you might think it's good for you because it's offsetting the feeling of the pendulum effect and increasing that couch mode feeling. You might think it's creating calm focus in your life. What you're not aware of is it's actually creating that initial feeling of anxiety and overwhelm. It's taking away from the enjoyment of your life and pushing you back into the screen. It is not good for you, hence the April Fool's joke. So, what does it actually do to your brain, and how does that impact your mind in terms of your mental health and your body in terms of your physical health? So, in terms of your brain, I've already told you. What it does is it locks your brain in the pendulum effect, creating anxiety, stress, hypervigilance, overdrive, and overwhelm, that checked out feeling, that feeling that you can't do anything because you're overwhelmed by it and you're tired, you're exhausted, wired and tired, pendulum effect. It creates that. That's the A effect. The B effect is that when you go into the screen, you're feeling these high levels of dopamine and you're feeling this increase in alpha couch mode. So it's giving your brain the relief in the short run, but it's perpetuating the pendulum effect in the long run. And I've called it before a pleasure-pain paradox, because pain and pleasure are processed in the same areas of the brain. And so what starts as pleasurable ends up creating a world of pain, and it ends up being very painful. So how does it do that? Well, we know that let's talk about mental health first. We know when your brain gets stuck in that high beta mode, it creates anxiety and stress. It creates sleep issues. It creates difficulty with arousal in the real world, meaning you no longer find your partner attractive. You just want to get back into the screen or back into the sexual behaviors that you've linked to your brain. It creates depression. It perpetuates challenges like ADHD. ADHD comes from that too slow of a mode, theta. We know that the theta to beta ratio is the biomarker for ADHD. And if there's too much theta, and eventually if there's too much alpha, that couch mode, that leads to the feelings of depression. So basically in your mind, what happens is you have a decrease in motivation for your life, which includes your work, your people, your relationships, and your hobbies. We know that it increases anxiety and depression and mental health issues. We know suicidal ideation can be something people struggle with. Your mind is impacted. Your brain might not be able to think or focus. There might be brain fog. These are all associated with porn use. Mental health issues. If you consume porn and you struggle with any of these things, there could be a direct relationship. In your body, we know that erectile dysfunction, porn-induced erectile dysfunction, is plaguing young men and old, but young men for the first time in history. Premature ejaculation, delayed ejaculation, performance anxiety, which is a mental health issue based on the physical health issue of erectile dysfunction and delayed ejaculation, all wrapped into one. Every cell in your body can be impacted by porn use. And what that does is it falls out, and now your relationship is strained. It creates anger and irritability and can really create a lot of disconnect in your relationship. Lost connections, lost connection to your work, to your purpose, lost connection to your people, lost connection to your hobby. Okay, so what to do about it, and then we'll wrap up the April Fool's joke. What to do about it is, first and foremost, you have to stay out of the screen and let your brain unwire. But unwiring is not rewiring. So for rewiring, you need brain training. Brain training is going to rewire your brain in the right direction, which is why it's a pivotal piece of my program. Training your brain in the right direction at the unconscious level. Then creating a life that feels amazing to you. That's taking the subconscious trauma and dysfunction from the past, figuring out what that old crusty patterning is, putting it on the conscious plate and going to work to get rid of it, to create your own happiness. I've talked to a few people where they want joy in their life, but they are not setting up a life to create joy. And that's where the work is, by figuring out how can you create your days and your weeks and your life so that it is successful for you and it creates the happiness and the peace that you're looking for. That happens in each moment, in each choice that you make, in each action that you take. And part of the program that I offer is to act in a different way so you can truly feel your feelings so that you can think in a new way. Because if you're dysregulated, you have to start taking imperfect action in a new way to get a new outcome. Once you're regulated and your brain is healthy, then you can feel your feelings, think a thought, and go act in a healthy way. That does not include porn. So, number 1, stay out of the screen. Number 2, regulate your brain. Brain training is the unconscious way to do it. Making new decisions, new actions, and feeling your feelings is the conscious way of doing that. And when you train your brain and you do those things, you're using unconscious, subconscious, and conscious forces together. You create a synergy. That's why it's so important to get synergistic on this thing. That's what my program does. It synergizes everything that you need and it stacks them on top of each other, just like compounding interest, so that you get the outcomes that you want. Then being able to create your life, figuring it out. So the third thing that you have to do is think about what is the life that you want. And then are you taking the action steps that create that? Yesterday, I signed my daughter up for soccer because she wanted to be on a soccer team. And it is a boatload of driving. She doesn't want to do it. I don't want to do it. And it's definitely impacting the two of us. Neither of us are feeling that great because we've tripled the amount of driving that we usually do in the notion of being able to play soccer eventually. But, we made the hard decision yesterday that it's probably not a great idea to participate because the pain of it is bigger than the joy of it. And then that becomes a very intentional choice. It wasn't made willy-nilly. It was made intentionally. Is this act bringing us more joy or is it causing more pain? And just the sheer amount of driving that goes along with it. The practices are okay and the games are okay. Actually, my husband and I love them. They're really fun. We want her to continue, but I'm like, you can't make a kid continue a thing they don't like because you want to cheer for them. That's not cool. And she also rides horses. So horses are her thing, and she thought she wanted to play soccer, but it's not working out. Cost-benefit analysis, not creating the life that we want for ourselves, being super busy all the time. And she said it, she's like, when I wake up in the morning, she's 12. This is really good self-awareness. When I wake up in the morning, I don't want to go do it already. It's at 5 p.m. So if you have something like that in your life, it's got to go. It's got to be evaluated at least and nuanced if it can't be eliminated altogether. It's got to be nuanced for success to create the joy that you want in your life. And I definitely wanted an hour and a half less in the car each day, which created more joy. We made a TikTok video. She wanted to do it with me. It's terrible. I think it's on her channel, but yeah, I mastered the dance moves to airplane mode. Yes, I did. Quality time together, having fun. She's like, Patty, you're the best at this. She calls me Patty. I'm like, thank you, babe. So quality time together. That is how you create and cultivate a life of joy, by making that decision. Okay, so let's wrap it up. Number 1, unconscious, train your brain. I'm going to put the link for Brain Training 101 below. Get the headband through my website because you can get it at the lowest price available to you since I'm an ambassador. So please make sure you get it on my website so that you can get the best pricing. Get Brain Training 101 if you're interested in learning how to train your brain. It's below. And my 90-day program is the complete essential guide that you need to synergize recovery for the fastest gains in the least amount of time. Unconscious, subconscious, conscious, unwire, rewire, hardwire. It's not just about leaving porn. What it's about is leaving porn, rewiring your brain into the healthy optimal mode, the green zone, not the pendulum effect, not too much alpha. The green zone is the perfect amount of alpha and low beta so that you feel great, you feel calm and focused. That's in the 90-day program. which I would love to have you in, so next year at this time, it's no joke. You're living the life of your dreams and loving every second of it. Okay, I hope this helps, and I hope you have a fun April Fool's Day. I know the sweet spot is hitting it where it stays funny. Hopefully we were able to do that for you today. All right, control your brain or it'll control you.